この間、HelloTalkを使っていて、ちょっとおかしな英語を見かけました。Senior? 最初見たとき、これおかしいな。本当にたくさんの日本人は先輩と後輩を英語で言いたいときに Senior か Junior を使うんですが、それってどうでしょうか？実はめちゃくちゃ変です。ネイティブだったら何て言うんでしょうか？皆さんこんにちは、アーサーです。今回のレッスンでは先輩と後輩の自然な英語の言い方を勉強します。よろしくお願いします。I just want to make this clear before I get into the lesson that the words senior and junior by itself is not strange. Many native speakers use them in regular conversation and it feels natural. The reason why this feels strange is because of the situation, the bunmyaku, the context of how people say things. Let's look at senior and junior together first.Senior is actually an adjective to mean older. It's kind of an older way to say it, and actually it comes from the same Latin root that the word senator comes from. In those days, they called senators old people because, well, politicians tend to be kind of old. And to be honest, not much has changed since those times. So if you use it like an adjective like senior manager or he's a senior staff member, well then it makes total sense and it's not a problem at all. And in that case, it's pretty close to the word senpai, I think. But if you use it as a noun and you say something like he is a senior or he is my senior, well then it means one of two things and neither means senpai. Let's look at the first one together. If you say he's a senior or she's a senior, well, what that means is that they're an old person. Why, hey there, son, I'm a senior. Yeah, that's actually how my grandfather used to talk to me sometimes. He's from the south of America.
確かにシニアだと映画館のチケットがこうシニア割引になったりとか、シニアデーとか。
Oh, you guys have that too? You have senior discounts in Japan too? Senior discount, senior 割引もあるよね。
ある。
In movies in the States, you have senior tickets and those tend to be cheaper.
Yeah.
日本語でもシニアという単語を使うんですか？
カタカナでシニアって書く。
Wow. 初めて知った。Now you could say he's my senior by 5 years, and what that means is that they started 5 years before you or they are 5 years older than you. If it's been only 1 year, you could say he's my senior by 1 year. But that's really like the only situation where you could say that. The second meaning it could be is to mean you're a senior in either high school or college. Senior is the last year of high school and college. So if you're in your last year, 4年生, then you are a senior. But in a lot of cases, people don't just say, I'm a senior. To make it more clear, they'll say, I'm a senior in college, or I'm a senior in high school, or I'm a college senior, I'm a high school senior, something like that. Now, what about junior? Well, it's the same as senior, just, well, the opposite. The word junior comes from the Latin root for the word young, and so that's what it means. Actually, in the United States, when the son and the father have the same name, a lot of the time, the son is called junior because, well, if you call them both the same name, well, it's kind of confusing. Actually, I shared this in detail in a blog post I wrote many years ago when I was just starting out IU-Connect about middle names, and I talked about how my grandfather and I have the same name. And when we were both in the same room, a lot of times when people wanted to call my grandfather, they would call him Arthur Sr. and they would call me Arthur Jr. In school, a junior is someone who's in the second to last year of high school or college, so they're 1 year below the seniors. So if you're a 大学3年生, you can say, I'm a junior in college. So now we know the proper usage of senior and junior in English, but what about senpai and kohai? What should you say when you want to use those words in English? This is what my friend Andy said. Do you really use like, oh, he's my senior in conversation though?
No, not really. I would say like I actually just say my coworker.
You just say your coworker? Yeah. In order to express the message of senpai and kohai in English, we have to change the way we think about it. Even though senior and junior are good direct translations of the word senpai and kohai, the culture is really different. In Japan, there's a really strict joge kankei. It's very important to decide who is above, who is beneath, who has been there longer, who has been there shorter. But in America and other Western culture, that doesn't really matter so much. I mean, just look at the language. In Japanese, you have kensongo and sonkeigo and other types of keigo. And in English, well, you don't really have that. There's only one way to say you, and there's only one way to say I, because that joge kankei just doesn't matter. And so in Japanese, in your everyday life, the words that you use are trying to do that ichizuke right there. But for native speakers, we don't really have that mindset, and so we don't really differentiate. You know, as someone who studied Japanese, I remember when I was learning about the words for family members, and I thought, ani? Ototo? なんか普通に brother 言いたいんだけど、なぜわざわざ毎回区別しなきゃいけないんだ、めんどくさ。But that's because I was looking at Japanese from the perspective of English. I was comparing it to English. I wasn't just thinking about Japan and Japanese culture and the richness right there. And well, now that I've adopted that, I don't think it's a bother at all. It's kind of like my brain switches when I'm switching languages. When you're talking about senpai and kohai in school, you just say classmate or schoolmate. For work, you can just say my coworker. But you know, actually in everyday conversation, native speakers don't really say it like that. They'll say something like, he's my classmate no kawari ni. We're in the same class. We go to the same school. 仕事の場合は he's my coworker no 代わりに we work at the same company もしくは we work together です。発音練習と実践ガイドは世界とつながるムーブメントにあります。So now here's the question. Why don't people tend to say he's my coworker or she's my classmate? The grammar isn't wrong. This is just another example of cultural differences. When you say something is something, it's giving it kind of a 硬い定義。で、その定義に縛られる可能性が一応あります。Now, in a culture where 上下関係 is very important, it's important to have these clear 定義, these clear definitions. But in a more kind of 緩い文化, you don't really need that. And so, especially in the United States, people tend to avoid labels saying this is this. That's why when people talk about their job, they don't say, my job is accounting. They say, I work as an accountant. Or with their hobbies, they don't say, my hobby is reading books. They say, I like to read books. This is actually true in dating too. Not many people from the beginning say, 付き合ってください, please date with me. They just tend to meet, they tend to get friendly, and then sooner or later they realize they really like each other, and then somehow they got into a relationship all of a sudden. But I'll share more about that in a future video. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember, 英語は勉強する科目ではなく、コミュニケーションを取るためのツールです。なので、ぜひ今回学んだ内容を外国人と話して実際に使ってみましょう。でも多くの方は英語をたくさん学ぶのに外国人の直面したら頭が真っ白になって言葉が出てこないっていう辛い経験の繰り返しばかりになります。具体的にどうやって勉強した英語を実際に使えるようになるんでしょうか？そのために無料ガイドがあります。I made a free guide to help you not just learn English but be able to use it in the real world. And for more information about that, you can click up here. As always, enjoy your English adventures. 一緒に世界とつながりましょう! See you next time. Kyoko, you've told me a little bit about Ishikawa-san. Who is he?
He's senior.
Oh, he's like 60?
No. Younger.
Oh, but senior?